All right, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dave, and I'm here to talk about why I think Jo Jorgensen ought to stage her own debate. Because it doesn't look like the Democrats and Republicans are going to debate, because Joe Biden, I don't think he can debate, number one. They don't want Joe Biden to debate. So Donald Trump will win the debate because one person isn't going to show up. Now, very much like when a congressional district decides, that they're not going to run a candidate, like a Democrat is not going to run in that district, well, then the Libertarian should run in that district. Give the folks a choice between Republicans and Libertarians. I think that would be an interesting debate between those two particular parties. And in this case, I think people need to hear some opinions that are going to be outside of the scripted mainstream commentary. Now, granted, the networks that will carry these debates are the ones that are going to get these pre-made questions, these questions which are either sent by the DNC or even possibly the RNC, but most likely based on Donna Brazile and what happened last time around, the DNC is going to throw Joe Biden some softball questions if he decides to show up. It appears that they're trying to sell the country on the idea of no debates because Donald Trump is too mean and he lies too much. And okay, well, what a great opportunity. If Trump lies so much, why not get up there and counter his lies? I mean, we are definitely in an Orwellian moment where you think to yourself, well, if you're saying what I think you're saying, then this is low-hanging fruit for any candidate. The problem is Biden is so cognitively deficient that he can't get up there and actually stand on stage for an hour or whatever and debate Donald Trump. I mean, they'll run commercial breaks and Big Pharma will run commercials during the debates. Remember when was the League of Women Voters that used to have these debates? And to me, that was when they were actually debates. And the questions weren't, prepackaged. You'd get some curveballs and these people would have to think on their feet, and that's something that Joe Biden can't do. However, Jo Jorgensen can do it. Howie Hawkins. Hey, I'm not a big fan at this point of Howie Hawkins, but the more the merrier. Let the country hear ideas. Okay, let them hear different perspectives. You would actually get a better representation of a left versus right paradigm, although I think the Libertarian candidate, even though they're more right of the Green Party on things, especially like the Constitution and, the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, pretty much all the amendments. If you want to say that's to the right, I would say that's being a preservationist maybe, which is different from a conservative. You preserve what works good. But at least you'd have perspectives. You'd have Hawkins, who seems to be fairly intellectual, against Jorgensen, who we know is an intellectual. So you've got those two people out there who could add life, add energy, add information that people are missing. And you would get to hear perspectives that you don't hear during the horse race. Now, as somebody who definitely does not like covering the horse race all the time, well, Biden said this today and Trump said that today, and that's the news cycle. That's the news cycle. And although it's news and it should be reported on, even so-called independent journalists tend to just cover that, and they think their perspective, their way of covering it is going to be so much better than what you're getting from MSNBC. And in some cases, it's true, but in other cases, it's not. I mean, if you're Tim Pool, absolutely. You know, I'm a big fan of Tim Pool these days because he's interesting, because he really grapples with the things he's talking about. I don't always agree with his conclusions, but I agree, or I appreciate his sincerity. Okay, I agree with his sincerity. I don't know. I appreciate it because you can tell it's genuine. You can tell he's wrestling with ideas and concepts, and he's not just sort of like throwing out a perspective just for the sake of doing it every day. That's what I struggle with on this channel, because what do you talk about? I mean, there are so many lanes that are occupied right now, but it's funny. The libertarian lane is kind of wide open. A friend of mine did an interview with Spike Cohen, who is the VP candidate for the Libertarian. He's the vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. And that video should have hundreds, if not thousands, of views on it. And I won't say how many views it has, but it doesn't have a lot of views. Let's just put it that way. And I found the interview fascinating. I don't know if content is getting throttled down, if it's not within the mainstream. You know, I dealt with this when Tulsi Gabbard was running for president, that a lot of her content, a lot of her tweets, a lot of those things just disappear after a while. They're there and then they're gone. But I think this idea of the Libertarians and the Greens staging their own presidential debate, and by the way, have the courage to show up on a stage socially distanced without a mask on your face. Have the courage to do that, okay? And if you have an audience, have them socially distanced out into the audience. So again, you can be corona correct, okay? Instead of politically correct, you can be COVID-19 correct, okay? And have, you know, and invite the media in. Say, hey, we're having a debate where we're going to actually talk about issues that people don't get to hear about. We're going to talk about the fact that the United States is spending billions propping up other countries around the world. We're also going to talk about how the United States is also sanctioning all kinds of, various countries all around the world. And the United States is a military power which has too much of a footprint all over the world and has been like this for decades. That's why we're an empire. We want to talk about the economy, the way it can work. We're going to talk about like blue collar workers and how nobody represents them, and who would do a better job, the Libertarians or the Green Party? Who would give you more freedom? Who would stop the madness of the COVID correctness? Who would stop it? Would it be the Greens? I don't think so. It might be the Libertarians, thankfully. Or at least they'd look at it a little bit more subjectively and not run around and play the same tune that the media plays day and night and just echo that to score political points, which I tell you what, Americans are getting more and more fed up with it because people are losing their livelihoods. They're losing their jobs. They're losing their houses. The government should not have this much power to destroy business. Just, you know, pretty simple observation. So again, my idea, and it's not a brilliant idea because it's been proposed before. You need the Green Party and the Libertarian Party. Those are the two big ones outside the Democrats and Republicans. I know there's also like the Constitution Party, but I would focus on the Libertarians and the Greens. They are showing up in polls, 1 or 2% in some polls. I know that's not a lot, but that would double and triple and quadruple if they had media exposure. They're not going to get media exposure. They're not sponsored by big corporations. They're not sponsored by China or Russia or any other country for that matter. You know, outside interests and special interests, they have no desire to see an outsider. I mean, Trump is already an outsider to some degree, and they didn't like that. So they would hate the idea of somebody coming out of nowhere in a third party to become the president of the United States. So they're going to continue their blackout. But I think independent media has a responsibility. I'm actually really shocked that progressive media continues to just focus on the Biden horse race and, wow, the Democrats really blew it. And you've got this guy, Howie Hawkins, which you essentially destroyed. See, I didn't try to destroy Howie Hawkins. I interviewed Howie Hawkins. I think he's authentic. He's just not for me, because I don't know if the Green Party is serious about what they want to do. And I sense they're a little bit on the authoritarian side. And I don't think socialism is going to fix things. I don't think pure socialism is the way to go. I found a philosophy that I think I can live with, and that's libertarianism. You may disagree with that. Maybe there needs to be a hybrid of different things, kind of like what Tulsi Gabbard brought to the table. But we can agree on big things like, the surveillance state is out of control. Your rights and freedoms are being taken away. We need the Second Amendment right now, probably more than ever in our country. We need the First Amendment probably more than ever in our country. And those are Libertarian Party principles. Those are non-negotiable principles. They are a true anti-war party. They believe in bringing troops home. They believe being kind of like Switzerland, armed but neutral. And that's the way the United States could be if we wanted. And they don't believe in draconian gun restrictions. Look what's happening out on the streets in very violent places right now. And, for somebody who debated this and that about guns, I don't know. It's really not the time for that debate. We can continue to have the debate on background checks and things like that, but for the most part, I think people need to defend themselves, especially if inner cities and different locales they're deciding to defund their police forces. And it's happened in New York City. I know that for a fact, and it's happening in different places around the country. So again, libertarians versus Greens, especially if Biden backs out of the Biden-Trump debates, maybe even some mainstream media will pick this up. They've got no choice. Of course, they're so invested in Joe Biden winning that it's nauseating. Such a horrible candidate. Even if, it would be one thing just to disagree with Joe Biden on policy, which I vehemently oppose everything Biden wants to do. But then you've got this guy, again, who's in severe cognitive decline, and they're pretending that he's not. And then they're calling people out. They're calling people names, or, it's you can see it. If Trump were doing this, they'd go ballistic. And they should go ballistic to some degree if Trump was doing it. Trump already has his own sort of style where he says crazy things. And I think he does have all of his senses. Imagine if he was starting to lose some of those senses, what he might say. It'd be, the media would be going crazy, reporting by the minute why he's not fit to serve as president and so forth. So we could have a sane debate. We could learn libertarian principles. We could learn about the Green Party and what they truly believe. And the so-called forgotten man would be well represented in a debate between the Greens and Libertarians. And you'd get to hear an actual debate about issues. I know it's boring for a lot of people, especially in progressive media, where they want, some kind of glamorous, exciting celebrity thing to happen. I'm over that. Our country is in dire straits, and we need solutions to problems, and we need real ideas to go out there. We need real conversations, and we're not having them. Instead, we're, again, worrying about the horse race, the dog and pony show, the conventions, yay, the conventions. Okay, the conventions are over. Now we need to have a debate between people who have some cognitive skills and who may present some new ideas to a very weary voting public who wants to do the right thing for the country. But again, we're not given enough information to make good decisions. So that's my idea. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon. See you then.